Welcome to Beyond the Closing Table. I'm your host, Michael Martin, and I'm here to interview top producing real estate agents, top producing lenders, and successful business owners. I am super excited today to have my friend, Mr. Paul Levering, here. He is with EOS. He's going to talk to you all about the Entrepreneurial Operating System and his business and what he does to help business owners. He has been an integral part in our business growth since 2021 and helping learn how to really expand our business and think about it in a different way. So, Paul, I am super excited to have you here. Thank you so much for coming in. We've talked about it for a while, but I'm really glad that you come in today.
Cool to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to kind of just jump in, maybe get a little bit of background on you. I've heard the story a few different times on kind of like where you grew up, what you kind of went through. And so let's kind of hear about that before we jump into any sort of EOS and business stuff.
Sure. Where to start? It's a wonder I started my own businesses at all because I am pretty risk averse. I think that came from a family experience where my dad was an entrepreneur. He tried real hard. Things went sideways. Not all entrepreneurial stories are pleasant ones, right? They don't all have happy endings. As a matter of fact, most of them don't have happy endings.
Yeah, most businesses fail.
Statistically, most businesses fail. This one did to the extent that we lost our house and kind of everything. The family kind of fell apart at that point.
Wow.
So I start out really risk averse. I always say I blame my wife for the start of the business because, I have ideas, right? So many ideas going around, and I'm a talker. I like to talk about the ideas. And this one idea, she was like, you either do this or shut up about it, right? I never want to hear it again. So that was permission. And I don't know, that's how we started our first business.
Wow. So what was that business?
The first large scale business I started was called FeatureTel. I had worked I started out in finance because I like numbers. As my dad always used to say, numbers don't lie, but liars number. So numbers don't lie. So I liked working with numbers. The finance in business is, if you're not having cash flow, if things aren't going well in that area, everything else kind of doesn't go well either.
Yeah.
So I started in finance, went to Carolina, put myself through school there, working at McDonald's on Europa Drive. Worked at Duke University for a while, was a retail stockbroker for a while, got into telecom, and that's kind of the genesis of FeatureTel, where, back in 2002, I was in the right place at the right time with the right technology. There's a lot of business that is just luck. And so right place, right time, my wife's blessing, and we were off to the races. I remember we took out a home equity loan to make the payment on the first bunch of equipment that we did. So that's the founding story and how I got to FeatureTel.
Well, there's also something really important, I think, to talk about there. And that is, I think every successful business person generally has somebody supporting them, whether it's financially or emotionally or right. Sure. But I can tell you, I am super blessed because, my wife has always been extremely supportive, and probably a lot of crazy things that I've, asked her about, or trips or coaching, or, all these things are not cheap.
Right.
And it's, money coming out of the family bank account to help support and grow the business.
Yeah. We make a good team.
Yeah. Yeah. That's important for sure. So you got into that business, and then at some point you discovered EOS. Now, I imagine there's probably a lot of people that are watching or listening to this podcast that have no idea what EOS is. So I want to make sure you give a really good explanation and understanding. It's how you and I met. And it is, I'm not going to talk about it. I want you to jump in
Sure.
and kind of explain what EOS is, because many of the podcast guests that I've had on before you are also EOS people. I think you actually said you just watched the one with Sam.
Sure. Yeah.
And he talks about EOS. He actually moved away from EOS into a different platform later, but he said EOS was extremely crucial in helping him get a start when growing his business. But I'm going to shut up and let you talk about EOS.
Sure. Yeah. I find that all the time. It's like sometimes, what got you here won't get you there. Mm-hmm. And it's just about what works for you. right? And there's a lot of business systems out there. You got to pick one and stick with it, right? So what got me to EOS? I'm a big fan of structure and systems and process. I always say, and it's not my quote, but structure sets you free. And there's nothing as nerve-wracking as having, when I started FeatureTel, I just had my third child. I got laid off. All this stuff was going on.
No stress.
Yeah, no stress at all. And it's very nerve-wracking because entrepreneurship is like making stuff up as you go along.
Yeah.
And, I
fly by the seat of your pants a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I was smart, but now was my chance to put my money where my mouth was. And that was very stressful. So, having some system or structure to use as a template as you put your ideas into it was critical for me. And actually, early on at FeatureTel, it was a book called Mastering the Rockefeller Habits by Vern Harnish.
Okay.
And so the tools taught in that book were my initial tools in FeatureTel. And it's what it's what got us along. It brought, I like the quote, a place for everything and everything in its place. So I found that, used some of the tools there. I didn't have an implementer, anybody helped me. I just read the book, put the tools in place. But EOS really came along, or I discovered EOS at the beginning of my HVAC business. So I ran FeatureTel for 8 years, grew it. We had 6,000 subscribers. Our largest client was the city of Durham. Once we got that account, I figured we made it, right? And then things were changing in the industry. There was consolidation, roll-ups going on. We were at the Inc. 500, 5,000 conference, and somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, I know your business and I would like to buy it. So exited from FeatureTel, took a year off, got into, with a friend of mine, got into HVAC business, right? My investment helped buy another company, and we grew that for 9 years.
It was commercial HVAC, right?
Commercial HVAC. Yeah. And so we grew that for 9 years. And a couple of years into it, I am also a member of EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, and it's 14,000 worldwide group of entrepreneurs who are all on the same journey. We meet in forums. We talk about business, family, personal issues, and we have learning events every month. So I was learning chair, which means I was in charge of bringing speakers for the year. And one of these speakers was Mike Payton. He wrote a book called Get a Grip, which was my introduction to Traction, the other book that Gino wrote, and my introduction to EOS. And when I brought Payton to speak, he spoke about EOS and the tools, and I was about 2 years into Blue Hat Mechanical, my HVAC company, and I said, we're doing that, right? We're using these tools, we're doing that. So I brought it back to the company, started using the tools there, self-implementing, and then I got trained by Gino and Mike Payton in 2016. So I was doing it, and then I got trained by them as an implementer, came back and did it more right.
Yeah.
And then we were off to the races.
Did it more better?
More better. More righter.
Yeah. And so where did you do that training? What did that look like? Was that multiple days, multiple visits? How does that work?
Yeah, it was multiple days. It was a 3-day boot camp up in Detroit, where I guess Gino lived, and they were growing it at the time. And yeah, 3 days.
And Gino was a real estate agent, is that right, originally? Or was his dad a real estate agent?
Frank, can't quite recall it.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah. Wickman, but it was the largest real estate training
company. That's right.
In the country.
That's right.
So that was Gino's early experience, where it was a bit of a turnaround. He just had a knack for what he calls the art and science of business. And I love that description because business is an art and a science. It's a science because there are some things that are just, the same and true and factual all the time. And it's an art because you're dealing with people.
People, exactly.
Yeah. So that's how I discovered it. We used it at Blue Hat. And then I started teaching it to others. What do they say? They say you're never a prophet in your own land. So, when you work with people every day, this is that's another idea from Paul. Okay, fine. But when you go teach it to others and they're hungry, they are target market, they want structures and systems, and you come in to help them, the uptake is much more, I always say it's the most fulfilling work I've ever done.
Okay.
So
Wow.
yeah, 9 years now, 500 full day sessions with other companies teaching this stuff. And it's still the most fulfilling work I've ever done.
And I think you got out of you sold your portion of the HVAC business 2 years ago?
2022.
Yep,
Yep.
Almost 3 years ago. Okay,
Yeah.
or about 3 years.
Yeah. And I was growing EOS and getting clients during that time. And then, of course, once I exited, I kind of took off.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we found out about you through, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you could probably correct this with me, but Sam at Videri, I think, was sharing that information about it with Baldwin, where my wife
Right.
was working at the time and now owns.
Right.
And so they were telling me about what you guys were doing, and then finally we were like, hey, our team was growing a lot at the time, and we're like, we need some structure, right? Because
Right.
we don't know how to run this from a business. So let's kind of go into explain what EOS is for those that don't know about it, because I think it's like, when I try to explain it to people, I say, it's Entrepreneurial Operating System. So think
Right.
about like DOS for a computer. It's an operating system for a computer. This is a system, and it's much really about specific types of meetings and cadence and all those kinds of things. But I know you can explain it way better than I can.
Sure. It is a EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, is a holistic system, which is it's a simple set of tools that deliver three things. And this is kind of like, this is the spiel, right? This is what you'll hear over and over again from EOS implementers. It delivers three things that we call vision, traction, and healthy, right? Vision from the standpoint of documenting, getting it out of your head, documenting your vision for the organization on paper, so you can share it with everybody, right? Because what happens is that people assume they all have the same picture in mind for the future, but they don't really.
Yeah.
So vision, getting your vision for the organization on paper, to traction, which is bringing discipline and accountability into the organization. So you need discipline and accountability to keep people accountable, marching toward that vision. And then healthy, we always say that starting with the leadership team, people are people, and leadership teams are not always healthy. They don't function well all the time.
What causes them to not function healthy?
Often different ideas about the vision, different ideas about how to get there, different ideas about performance standards and the numbers and the measurables as you march toward that vision. Personalities, people just being human, power struggles, emotional issues,
Few
you name
things.
it. Yeah.
I think one of the things I brought in from my head from what you just said was maybe a lack of clarity amongst the leaders of what each of these things looks like, right? And so if they all felt like they understood them, even if they believe they understand it, but they actually have a different vision of that in their head, then that causes, again, a lack of clarity. Where the thing about EOS is it brings everything very simplified, I think, together so that everybody can agree upon it.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's several books out there. Obviously, Traction is the one that kind of is really EOS in a nutshell. Like, it puts it all together. If you own a business and you haven't read Traction, highly recommend that you do that. That's probably the first one, I think, to start with. You may have a better idea there, but it'll get you really thinking about it. A lot of these books really talk about, they start off at least with ways to kind of see another business, maybe a fictional business, that
Sure.
where you can see the challenges that they're having, and then probably very quickly and easily recognize the challenges that you may be having at your company or your team, and go, yeah, I've seen that before. That's kind of a problem, right? And we call those issues, right, within EOS. So I think you did a great job there. Maybe let's talk about who EOS is for. Like, who would be the ideal person to go, I should be utilizing, or my company should be utilizing EOS?
Sure. Target market for these tools and this system, businesses with 10 to 250 employees. A lot of times, I guess most commonly when I see them, they're feeling stuck, right? They're frustrated. Things aren't working. The people aren't communicating. They're not hitting their numbers. They're not getting the results they want. They don't have any time, right? So a lot of these things are going on, and they don't know what to do. They're kind of flabbergasted. They're looking for something. And
I hear a lot of people too complaining about, my company has too many meetings, right? Or it's like they have a meeting to have a meeting. It's like, what's the point of it? Are you actually getting anything done?
Right. So it's where basically you're frustrated. Things aren't going the way you want them to go. We call that hitting the ceiling. Right? You hit a ceiling, and with the first implementation day, we teach that hitting the ceiling is a normal, natural thing, right? It's not unusual. As a matter of fact, businesses hit ceilings all the time, and it's a natural thing. They call it growing pains, right? Every growing thing has growing pains. So 10 to 250 employees is a sweet spot where the leader is finding that they need some help. They need something to change, right? They're not getting what they want. So they come to EOS, and EOS, basically vision, traction, and healthy, like I said, it helps them get their vision on the same page. When people feel like, in your business, if you feel like people aren't listening to you, right, or they're just not understanding you, or they're not communicating, right, that's one sign that you need this system. Again, target market. You've hit a growth spurt where, or you've hit a ceiling. What happens a lot of times is businesses go through this period of evolution and then revolution, and the next thing that happens is a downward cycle, right? And this is just normal and natural. That downward cycle always scares business owners, right? I've got a lot invested in this. And like when I was at FeatureTel at one point, I hired an investment banker to come in and, kind of look at the business and give me an evaluation, because I said, I've worked too hard to get to this point, and I don't want to see the backside of that curve. So that was kind of my transition into needing structure and a system to feel comfortable that I was going to make it to the next level.
Got it. So what you're saying for EOS, if you're 10 to 350 people or something like that?
10 to 250.
250.
Doesn't mean it won't work outside of that. I work with plenty of businesses way outside of that range.
Yeah.
But that's the sweet spot.
Well, and as someone who came to you originally with 11 people on our team, kind of at the bottom end of that range, I will tell you, and you and I have talked about this in the past, as a team, we're much more lean now, right? So I came to you in 2021. I blamed you that my business has failed ever since I've not failed, but has shrunk ever since I've started EOS.
Sweet.
However, that has nothing to do with you. Our systems are way better now than they were before, but our industry's changed quite a bit, right? 2020, 2021 were the best years the mortgage industry has ever seen, and since then, when rates jumped up, from 2.5%, 3% to 7.5%, 8%.
Sure.
It's amazing. People stop refinancing and buying homes.
Go figure. Yeah.
So, but this is helping prepare us, honestly, for the next wave, which we believe is not too far from now. We think we're about to come out of this and start to see a really nice boom, and we're going to be way more organized to handle it. But where I was going with that is, when we had 11 people, one of the great things about EOS is, right, in the meetings, and we have an L10. I want to get you to talk about the cadence here shortly, but in your L10, which is a level 10 meeting, it's a once per week meeting, typically 90 minutes. And in those meetings, there's a lot that you leave with, kind of an action plan on what's going to get done between then and next week. And when you have a larger team, it's very simple to delegate those things to people. When you have a small team, we have 4 of us now. EOS is much harder for me to run with 4 people than it is with 11 people, right? Sometimes if you don't get your job done and you're in L10 because you got busy doing other stuff, because I don't have the people to delegate to.
Right.
It's frustrating when you're in a meeting when somebody hasn't done what they were supposed to do since the last week. Like, what have you been doing? Well, I've been working my butt off on these other things, right? And so that's always a challenge. But I think as L10, or excuse me, as EOS, if you're growing, this is an incredible way to create a plan to be able to do that in a much more designed way. Now, I want to talk too about the cadences of that, but I also want to talk maybe more about some of Patrick Lencioni's books and kind of his overall thoughts, and because who are all the authors that kind of poured into this, like the whole theory?
Yeah. So you mentioned Patrick Lencioni, author. I guess his probably most well-known book is 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. We're speaking of team health, right? There's the 5 dysfunctions of how a team does not work well together. The Ideal Team Player is another one of his book. The four Obsessions of an Extraordinary Executive is another one of his books. So if you read those books, you'll see EOS all through it, because that's the background of what Gino put together. Also Good to Great, Jim Collins.
Yep.
And then there's 5 core books in EOS itself now. There's Traction, which is kind of like the basis of it all. Get a Grip, written by Mike Payton and Gino. is the narrative of a company going through the EOS process. There's how to be a great boss, which uses the EOS tools for people to be great bosses. There's rocket fuel that describes the relationship between the visionary and the integrator to leaders of the leadership team. Let's see what else.
There's one like, what the heck is EOS?
What the heck is EOS?
Yep.
Or that's kind of like, that's EOS explained
for your team,
from
right?
the employee's standpoint. You know, it says your leadership team is doing this because it explains it that way. But,
right. Change is hard, right? Especially for employees, right?
Yeah.
If you're the one making the change, it's not quite as hard, right? It's still going to be hard, but it's not quite as hard because you're bought into why you're making the change.
Right.
But if you're being told that there's a change, right? The staff, the team that you rely on every day, that's like, they're like, oh gosh, here comes another change. Oh
Right.
gosh, wait, we'll do this for 3 weeks and we'll be back on a normal thing, right?
Right.
And
right.
so, and change is frustrating, and unless the employees, the team members really are buying into why the change is being made, right?
Sure.
Now, that's a whole other thing too. As you start the EOS process, right, and in many of Patrick's books that you're talking about, you realize you think you have the best people on the team, but you realize, hey, we start going down these core values, and there are people that don't necessarily fit with the core values of the company.
Sure.
And so we have to make a decision, right? Either they get to choose that they don't fit in, or you get to choose for them.
Right. Yeah.
That's not fun either.
No, it's hard. And again, coming from good to great, you know, getting right people in the right seats is, I used to say people were 80% of the issues in business. I think they're 90% of the issues in business. But getting the right people in the right seats makes all the difference. Right people means that they're fun to work with. I mean, not necessarily fun, but you enjoy it, right? Because you're with these people, you know, unless you're all remote, right? But you're with these people a lot, and you're dealing with these people a lot, right? So you want these people in the organization to feel like your tribe, right? Like everybody belongs, and it just feels good to work with these people, right? When I start to describe those people, those are what core values are. Core values describe your tribe or your culture. Then getting them in the right seat means that they are good at the job, right? The job as outlined by, we say, get it, want it, capacity to do it, right? Get it, it has to be in their DNA, has to be part of who they are to do that job. Want it is the desire. You want people to jump out of bed every morning and say, you know, I am grateful to go work at that company with those people. And then capacity is just their experience, their training, their time, everything else to do that job well. And the evidence that they are doing well is in the measurables. I got a couple of numbers that I can give good, hard, objective data that they're doing a good job. So getting the right people in the right seats is everything. And you've mentioned two words over and over again, and it's funny because it's what EOS is all about: simple and clear. It's just simple and clear. It's not simple, but not easy, right? So the simpler you can make things, the easier it is to deploy and explain, and the clearer you can make things, like clear expectations for people. Right? And when you define what makes a right person in a right seat, and you can explain that, then your expectations are clear of that person. I remember when I saw Alan Mulally, CEO of Ford, who was CEO of Ford at one time, and he was speaking, and he would always say, you know, you don't have to share these core values. You don't have to behave this way, and that's okay. You know, and you don't have to be good at these things, right? And that's okay. And what he meant by that's okay, he meant you don't have to work here.
That's right.
And it's not an emotional thing. It can be emotional, but it's really nuts and bolts where, you know, if you aren't happy and can't succeed here, we want to be clear about that and help you be happy and succeed somewhere else.
You know, and I think so many times, right, in leadership, when we realize we've got to make a decision to let someone go, whether it be because business is down, or whether it be and you're trying to make sure they're right size in the books, or it be that that person's just not the ideal candidate or person for that role. And I think it's so rare do we let someone go and them not find a better opportunity for themselves, right? Because they really truly weren't the best fit here anyway.
Right.
You've been a part of that for us for 3 years. We've hired and hired a lot of people, and some people have quit, and some people we've had to let go during that time frame. Really 4 years, I guess. Yeah, and it's never fun. That part's never fun at all. But certainly over many years of being in leadership, realized that when you let someone go, often it's way better for them too. I just wanted to take a quick second and say thank you so much for watching our podcast so far. If you do me a huge favor before you forget about it, to like, subscribe, and if you would, just leave a quick comment about what you think of the podcast. And if you want to share it with your friends, I'd love that too. Thanks again so much. We'll finish up right now. And for any number of reasons. It's never, you get worried, like if you care about them and their finances and so forth, but ultimately, you're setting them free to go find the right thing.
Sure.
So often, right, and you could certainly speak to this, but speaking from our experience, so often when we hire someone, we're hiring to fill a job, to fill a position that's in need, right? Mm-hmm. Not necessarily hiring the right person for that role. I'm an optimist, right? And so when I interview people, I'm like, wow, I really like them. That sounds good. They seem like they'd be fit. Great. And I am like, they'll figure it out, or we'll help them figure it out, right? Mm-hmm. And then they get in the role and they're like, this sucks,
right?
Right? I mean, we've spoken a lot about this. One of the toughest roles in our team is the loan officer assistant role. Mm-hmm. There's a ton of pressure on that person. Time is crucial. Being proactive and getting back with people is crucial. We're helping them get qualified. They're going to go make an offer, and then when they get an offer accepted, they're writing a check for due diligence, which is a non-refundable deposit, right? And so that could be $1,000, which is still a lot to the person writing the check, but it could be $20,000, $50,000. If for whatever reason we can't do the loan, that money doesn't come back to them, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of pressure on us to make sure that we don't allow that to happen. And so that puts a lot of pressure on that person that's in that role. And we've had various people in that role. And to be frank with you, you either love doing that or you're going to be miserable at it, right? Mm-hmm. Because it is a lot of pressure. And so fortunately, Nicole is fantastic at it and does a great job. And she, I think for the most part, loves it. But that's definitely a challenge in there. So let's kind of go back to what I wanted to make sure we kind of hit on with EOS specifically is, you chose to jump into this, and all of a sudden you kind of not just chose to do it for your company, like you decided to commit to a life of EOS. So sure. How did you, and actually have this thing called EOS Life, right? But how did you decide so quickly that not only did you want to put this in your company, that you wanted to go get trained by Gino Wickman?
Sure. Well, I wanted to get trained because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I had a horrible family nickname for me when I was growing up, Perfect Paul. And, I realized it's very difficult to be perfect. But when I do things, I like to have a solid foundation and a great basis for doing it. So I wanted to go get trained.
Yeah.
Getting trained kind of gave me the right way and the official way, the pure way of doing it. So bringing that back was not only beneficial to me and gave me more confidence, but it was also beneficial to the company because we were doing it, the right way, giving it a fair shot.
Well, you didn't hire an implementer, I'm guessing.
Didn't initially, no. But later, when I became an implementer, I traded off with an implementer who also had a company. So I facilitated his meetings and he facilitated my meeting.
Nice.
Because it's very difficult and even a little unfair to facilitate your own company's meetings because you're like in the weeds trying to facilitate.
I could get that.
Be impartial. It's tough.
You can't be impartial. I don't know how you could do that. Yeah. And it's crucial having you, so right now we utilize you for annual meetings, right? Mm-hmm. Certainly you and I have some conversations during the year. For many years, you utilize your services as implementer for our quarterly meetings. Mm-hmm. And that was, especially in the get-go, that was really important to have you there because you just ask questions that we wouldn't think to ask because you're seeing this with so many other businesses.
Right.
You didn't know anything about the mortgage business, right? When you first started working with us, you probably know quite a bit more now, at least about our team.
Yeah. One of my core values, I'm curious about everything. And that's one of the things I love about this because I work with so many different businesses and I learn so much. And at the same time, it's beautiful that when I come in, I'm ignorant about the business, right? Because it's not about the business. The answers are in the room. I'm not there as a consultant or something. The answers are in the room. Great people on leadership teams. I work with the best people. But the answers are in the room. All I'm doing is providing the buckets and the tools to get those answers and the right answers, the most traction toward actually making the business better.
Yeah. It's, those Those first 2 days, why don't we talk about this? Let's start with cadence, because I mentioned that a few different times. And let's start from the very beginning, right? So somebody's interested in EOS. What do they do first?
Sure. The first thing is to contact an implementer and ask for the 90-minute meeting.
Okay.
The 90-minute meeting is a free 90-minute explanation of what EOS is, overview of the basic tools. The implementer gets to learn a little bit about your business and if you would like, if there's a good fit, right? Because not everybody's a good fit, right? I always say, let me do this 90-minute meeting so you can see if you can stand being in a room with me all day long learning this stuff, right? So there's a personality fit. So there's a lot that happens in that 90-minute meeting. But really, you bring your leadership team to that 90-minute meeting, whoever you consider to be your leadership team at the time. And each one, there's something in that 90-minute meeting for everyone, like head of marketing and finance and sales and operations. They're each going to hear something that they're like, oh man, that's going to solve a lot of problems. So they each get the opportunity there. There's also questions that the implementer will ask in that 90-minute meeting that the leader or the owner of the company or the leader of that leadership team, when they hear their people answer, they're going to hear things that they haven't heard before either. So it's my job to ask questions that help everybody learn. So that's the start, the 90-minute meeting. When you come out of that 90-minute meeting, the implementer will leave and say, hey, here's my rate, here's what that would look like. Let me know. And there's no hard sell or anything like that, because there's an implementer friend of mine that says, if you have to drag them in, you'll have to drag them around.
Yeah.
Right. So they've got to want this, and they've got to want.
They either see the value in it or they don't.
That's right.
They either have the budget for it or they don't.
Sure. Yeah. So all important. And as far as the budget impact goes, on day one, we say that our goal is to give them more control of the business and to increase the value of the business. And to that point, I just had, this has been like, we start out with good news at every meeting, and this has been my good news several times, is that I've had 2 clients exit recently, and they were acquired by private equity. And the private equity folks came in and they said, you know what, we're paying more, and in quote, we're paying more for this business because it is so well run, things are so clear, we're not going to have to come in and reconstruct a lot of things. It's not going to cost us a lot of money to get this business on the right track, because it is on the right track and it's clear. And so when I hear that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is the goal.
Yeah.
To increase the value of your business.
That's
and
fantastic.
It happened. So 90-minute meeting, you see if you have the budget and the time and everybody's bought into it, then you start with what's called a focus day, full day together. We're learning some very practical tools to start with. We say there's traction first, vision second, right? So it's a running business, so we give them practical tools on day one. They go away for 30 days. It's space-based learning. We come back together with what's called vision building day one. We review the tools on focus day, start putting new tools into place. The third day is vision building day 2. After that day, we consider the leadership team trained, because it's all about train the trainer. And so that they should be equipped to go out and roll these tools out to the organization. And in that process, an implementer is available between sessions. There's always questions and emails and phone calls and things where you're helping them understand the tools. But that is the implementation process. The cadence after that is I help run meetings every 90 days, including a 2-day annual, like 1-day quarterlies and 2-day annuals, until they're ready to graduate from having an implementer. And that's my goal, to teach the tools enough where there's an assessment called the organizational checkup, where they take that assessment. If they score 80% or above, right, it shows that they are proficient enough that they don't need to keep spending money on an implementer.
Got it.
That's the EOS process.
Okay. Excellent. And so, you laid it out, right? So that's the process, but then let's talk more about the cadence of what goes on once you kind of are running EOS, so you have an idea what that looks like.
Yeah, you mentioned the L10, the level 10 meetings. It's called level 10 because you rate it at the end and you want to score a 10, or the perfect 10 on how good that meeting was. But the weekly meetings that you've mentioned, very simple and clear. This agenda makes meetings not suck. Right? Meetings suck because they very often don't accomplish anything. Right? I remember working in the corporate world and thinking, man, that leadership team spends so much time meeting and nothing ever changes. Or the issues go away for a little while and then they come back. Right? So this meeting is the agenda to help you do the most important thing a leadership team can do, which is smoke out issues, prioritize them, and then solve them. And the solutions to these issues are where we say we bring discipline and accountability into the organization. We assign people accountability for doing a specific thing that make an issue go away forever. And it's kind of like, it gives you the opportunity to slow down, right? So of this 90-minute L10 weekly meeting, fully 60 minutes of that 90-minute meeting are spent discussing issues. So we slow down when we get into the issues solving phase, ask the 5 whys. Sometimes, to get to a true root of the issue, you have to get below just the symptom, right? A lot of people love, like, you get an issue, you solve it, and you go away, and then it pops its head up later because you're not getting it from the root.
Yeah.
So, so you start out with, do you want to go through the agenda?
Yeah.
Every week, leadership team meets. You start out 5 minutes with good news. You go around, everybody, a little personal item of good news, a little business item of good news. There's a psychological reason you do that. It gets the brain in the state where you can solve problems better, right? So you get in a positive state first with good news. You spend the next 15 minutes discussing, first is a scorecard. So it's kind of like week by week, you have certain expectations of people, certain expectations of measurables and activity. And you just want to make sure week by week you're on track.
So per department and so forth, right?
Right.
So that everybody's got some number that they're accountable for.
So what happened in the past week, you measure that, and it either went the way you expected it to, or you didn't, or it didn't. If the week didn't go the way you expected it to, that's an issue.
That's right.
That you have to solve. So scorecard, you review those numbers. Rock review, you review these priorities that people are working on. So the leadership team is special. They get rocks, especially initially. And rocks it comes from Stephen Covey. Rocks are the most important things you should be working on. So we review the rocks just to make sure everybody's on track. Then we review headlines. So we call these people and employee headlines, anything else that you want to mention. Getting everybody on the same page. So a quick 15 minutes of that. Another 5 minutes of reviewing to-dos. So people committed to do something by today, last week. And you're just reviewing for accountability. Did you get it done? Yes or no? If no, it might be an issue. So you're just smoking out issues, building the issues list. And now you prioritize those issues. So that full 60 minutes of, some weeks you might solve one issue because it may take the full hour to really dig down, solve it, and then assign to-dos from that solve.
But if you've got that issue solved forever, it's well worth the hour spent.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
That way you're not having to deal with that same issue over and over and over again, which is, by the way, I think what most companies deal with.
Sure.
Like, it's this problem and nobody wants to talk about it. They just deal with it, right? But you've got, depending on the size of your company, you may have 20 different people dealing with that same problem.
Right.
And in the amount of time that will take for them to just, maybe it's a software issue, right? Right. Could be something simple like that, where there's a glitch in the software and every person that goes into that software has to deal with that thing. And if you got that software issue fixed forever,
oh yeah,
how much time would that save every single person, right? In there, we have some software that's really slow, so I don't have control over that part of
right.
it. But if the software worked faster, it would make my team significantly more efficient. But not just my team, every loan officer within Fairway, and the same software we use, many other companies use. So probably all those other companies too. So
right.
That's a different issue altogether.
The compound effect of solving issues forever.
Yes.
I mean, think about the value of that.
You're right. It's absolutely, in fact, that it couldn't be understated, right?
Right.
Or overstated, I should say.
Yeah.
Yes, it could not be overstated. The fact that is, because that issue is now done forever,
Yep.
right? Okay, so we work through the issues. That's the cadence of that, and then you kind of wrap up and you rate the meeting after you've gone through the meeting.
That's it.
And the goal is that you've actually had a level 10 meeting
Right.
each time. Doesn't happen every time, but that's certainly the goal. Certainly don't want a level 2 meeting.
Right.
For sure.
The rating at the end helps you improve.
Yeah.
So you're going to get better every time.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So that's one part of the cadence of EOS.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the rest of the cadences that come along with EOS?
Yeah, the quarterlies and the annual meeting. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, you get together every 90 days, and there's something in my head about solving an issue forever.
Go for it. Yeah.
So yeah, I got to like shout out to John Carnes, who was our CTO at FeatureTel, and he was obsessive about solving an issue forever. Sometimes it would take longer than I liked or our salespeople liked or anything like that. I was like, John, come on, man, we gotta move on, gotta solve this and move on. And he'd be like, Paul, at the rate we're growing, do you want this to be a house of cards, or do you want me to solve issues forever so that we can scale and not have to look back and worry about this? I mean, all right, I understand.
Yeah.
All right, so solve issues forever. That can't be overstated. So the quarterly meetings. So now, every 90 days you get together. One of the most important things you do in a quarterly meeting is learn from the past. Right? Can't change it, but you certainly learn from it and improve yourself and the organization. So you learn from the past. You check in, remind everybody of the vision. It's easy to lose the vision because you're stuck in the day-to-day. The quarterly meeting pulls you out of the day-to-day and say, hey, remember, here's why we're doing this. Right, and that's what one of the tools is the vision traction organizer. So on the vision page, you have your why, right, and it's a very meaningful, emotional reason why we're all together doing this. Right, you change people's lives, right. When you get down to it in your business, right, you help people realize their dreams of having a home and the home that they've always dreamed of. So. You have to connect with the why, remind people why they're doing this, why they're putting up with, the day-to-day and the issues. And then you make an issues list, you smoke out the issues, and you say, okay, going forward in the next 90 days, time is precious, it's limited. What are we going to focus on for the next 90 days to make the business reach its vision faster, eliminate frustrations and problems. So you reviewed the past, checked in with the vision, and now set priorities that people are going to be accountable for the next 90 days. And then it's wash, rinse, repeat. The annual is a little longer. It's 2 days because we do some team health stuff to get people understanding each other, working better together. That's where the working on the healthy part of EOS really shines, is that we spend time getting to know each other.
Yeah. There's the 2-day annuals are crucial for the leadership team.
Agreed.
And one of the things that's real important, right, is typically going to be off-site, and not necessarily even just off-site, but even sometimes away. Like you have some people that fly somewhere.
Yeah.
You have some people that drive. We've gone to the mountains. We've gone to the beach.
Yeah. A true retreat.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Getting away from the business so that the business is not getting in the middle of what you're doing for these planning sessions. So awesome. I appreciate you sharing all of that. As we're starting to wrap up, Paul, it's hard to believe how quickly this has gone, but there's 2 things I'd love for you to hit on. One specific thing is I wanted you to talk a little bit about EOS Pure Plus. This is something that you kind of utilize, and then and what that means for folks. And then is there anything else in particular you just want to share that you feel like is important for the audience that's listening or watching us?
Sure. So Pure Plus is just the way I think about it. So there's EOS Pure. There's first, I think about it like concentric circles. I'm a very visual person. So concentric circles, you have the core, like 5 foundational tools, right? That's the VTO, the accountability chart, rocks, the meeting pulse, and scorecard.
And VTO is Vision Traction Organizer.
Right. That's like your 2-page business plan where you put your core values, core
You're looking
focus.
at your 1-year plan, your 3-year vision, and then your 10-year kind of BHAG, right?
Right. That's the documentation of what you want for the business. So that's the Vision Traction Organizer. So those are the 5 foundational tools. And then there's a toolbox with 20 tools in it. And then there's additional tools. So EOS kind of has, as you move through the process and get more detailed, right? Because sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees, and you're starting out. But then as you peel back the layers, it's like an onion. You get more and more tools. Outside of the EOS toolbox, there's also, I have clients that have been with me for a long time, actually, and they're going even deeper. And there's other material that you can kind of add to it. So, and I want to say add to it, but when an organization has other issues that maybe aren't solved by the tools, I like to have that additional toolbox in that outer ring of tools. One of those, for example, It actually started out being in that outer ring, and then EOS made it a core component, is Working Genius.
Mm-hmm.
So Working Genius, I know you guys have done that exercise a couple times. And Working Genius comes from the book, The 6 Types of Working Genius, by another Pat Lencioni book. And this is just an example of what was an additional tool that teams benefited from that I keep up with. Again, one of my core values is being curious. I'm always looking for things that help teams. So there's Working Genius. Basically, it helps individuals define their happy place, because we all do work that energizes us, and we all do work that drains us, right? And this assessment lets you know what type of work energizes you and what type of work drains you. We all know, and especially when, like you said, you had to reduce the size of your team, all of you have to do all kinds of things, some of which you don't love,
Mm-hmm.
and some of which drain you. But for the greater good, you got to suck it up and do it. And I always say, somebody said one day, suck it up is not a strategy or something. Heroics is not a strategy. So, if you are asking people to do things that drain them with much of their time, everything else is going to be harder, and they're not going to be very happy about it. But
Ultimately, they're going to be pretty miserable and probably leave.
sure.
Right. If you continue to press that, you got to find out the things that they have a working genius in, and allow them at least to spend a good portion, probably 50% or so of the time doing that.
Sure.
Because it's way more fun to work with people that are gaining energy versus that are losing it. Right. It's just not fun for them, and it's not fun for you.
There is another tool in the EOS toolbox called Delegate and Elevate.
Mm-hmm.
So the Delegate and Elevate, right?
Very
I
similar.
won't go through it all, but it's like, you imagine the power of an organization where everybody gets to do what they love and what they're great at. Right? And you want to constantly be aware of that, so that people get to live in their zone of genius.
It's what we try to get me to do as the visionary of our team, right? Is the things that I love, that I'm generally pretty darn good at, is being in front of people, whether it's real estate agents or financial advisors or clients.
Mm-hmm.
And that energizes the mess out of me. Like, I really love doing that. What drains me is picking up and making 30, 40 phone calls every single Monday. That part is really tough to get through. And in fact, it's one of the biggest challenges we're having in my L10 right now, is my team saying, why aren't you making your calls?
Right.
Because I'm finally just like, the hell with it. All right. And so
Is that something you can delegate?
it's not,
Right.
unfortunately. So that's the part that we got to work on there. But there's other things I can do to help, because ultimately it's just to get the meetings. So we've actually made a little change where I'm not waiting. I'm just going to go out and go see people. I spent a good amount of time yesterday doing that, and it was awesome. Like, I loved it. It was fun, and I didn't have to necessarily pick up the phone, and I could make some phone calls in between.
Yeah. There you go. You found a different way that you love that accomplishes the same
That's
goal.
right. That's right.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I don't like not being, I really love being here with the team.
Mm-hmm.
And they, I think, mostly like me being here. They don't like it when I'm not here for long periods of time. At least they tell me that. But when we do have a kind of a fun little, unique culture here in our group and team. So I think that's important. We're gonna have to wrap it up. Anything last that you want to kind of just either say to any entrepreneur that may be listening or watching, whether they're a real estate agent, a mortgage person, or just another business owner, that either about EOS or not. It doesn't have to be about it. We could definitely kind of beat the EOS drum here.
Well, since a lot of this has been about EOS, if they want to learn more about EOS, go to www.eosworldwide.com. So EOS Worldwide is the source for that. There's free tools to download, all kinds of resources out there. Again, I don't know, hopefully from this interview, you can tell that I love talking about this stuff. I love teaching this stuff. Happy to talk to anybody about that.
And you don't just work with people locally. You actually fly to good places and drive long distances to go see other teams.
East Coast, pretty much East Coast. If I fly west, it kills a couple of days. So got clients from Long Island to Miami.
Okay.
But most of them are right here.
Yeah.
Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area. And I guess the parting thought that I would want to leave folks with is that vision traction organizer that documents people's vision for the business, there's also a version for people personally.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So, and I've talked to business owners who were like at a difficult stage in their business where they were like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, right? So I would kind of prescribe that personal vision traction organizer. And I was like, go home, sit down with your husband or your wife or your significant other, or somebody, people you care about, right? And come up with this vision for yourself. And the key part of it is like this 3-year picture where, forget about how you're going to get there, but just talk about what it looks like when you do get there. Right? So have this vision, because they say any road, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
Mm-hmm.
So start out personally, what you want your life personally to look like, and then plan the business around that. Because if the business doesn't serve that, then you might not be in the right business.
Covey that said, begin with the end in mind?
Begin with the end in mind.
Right.
That's right.
That's really it just makes so much more sense. So often we just go to a job and do what we need to do, and then we're like hoping it's going to get there. Also reminds me of I don't remember, I think it's an E-Trade commercial, but it may be something else where the guy's like, what's your number that you need to hit for retirement or whatever? And he's like, $1 gazillion. Like,
right.
if that's your number, then there is no number.
Right. How much is enough?
Yeah, that's right. So thank you so much. I actually want to end with one other piece that I think is real important that you shared with us, or at least you pushed hard on us, at least 2 years ago, at one of our, I believe it was it was at my house. So it must've been a quarterly meeting, where you said, are you guys using AI? And we were like, not really at all. And you're like, I want to challenge you to find a way to utilize AI in your business between now and the next time I see you, which would have been roughly 3 months later. I think we may have done a couple things, but really hadn't leaned into it yet. I finally, shortly thereafter, I think I did go ahead and do the paid version of ChatGPT. And we have, over the last 6 months for sure, leaned into AI severely, deeply. I'm in there every single day. And not just with ChatGPT, there's so many other tools out there. I've got this, fun little, it's not on right now, but I got this little great, I'm sure you've seen these plods.
Oh, the plod, yeah.
Yeah. I've got one of those, and, it's such a great thing for me to take into a meeting, record everything that we're saying, convert it, it automatically converts it into notes, get it to Taylor, and then Taylor gives me a plan of, okay, you said you were going to do X, Y, and Z. I'll go ahead and take care of this. I need you to do this.
That's fantastic.
And it's just such a great way, because the last thing you want to do is go into a meeting, and I'm like the worst note taker, and I hate to-do lists. I just do. My team, I want them to be very good at it, but I hate to-do lists. Right. And so this has been a huge help for us. It's so cheap. PLAUD is the tool. You can go online and Google it. I think it's like $160 or something. Right.
And then you pay for the amount, the duration of storage.
I haven't paid for anything yet, and I've had it for 4 months. I think I did get a notification that says I'm about to run out. So, but there's so many AI tools out there, and this is only going to get faster and faster and faster. There's only more and more things happening. Right. And so if you're not on AI, I would highly encourage you to jump in, because you're probably going to be way left behind if you don't. It's happening so fast. So thank you for pushing us. That helped me.
Sure thing.
A lot. I wish I would have listened to you a little bit faster, but well, listen, thank you so much Paul for coming. Thank you guys for listening and watching. Please be sure and tune into the next Beyond the Closing Table. We'd love for you to share this, like it, and comment below. And if you know anyone that you think would be a great fit, yourself or someone else, as a guest on our podcast, we'd love for you to either comment or DM me for that. So we're always looking, again, for top producing real estate agents, top producing mortgage lenders, and other business owners that have had great success. So thank you so much for being here. See you soon.